Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the National Incubation Center, Lahore at LUMS, where we're trying to do our small part in supporting Pakistan's economic development by promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. At present, we have about 37 startups from Lahore and 20 at Butams in Quetta who are enrolled in NICL's foundation program. So a little bit about the foundation program. It's basically a program which comprises a redesigned curriculum delivered by LUMS faculty and international technical experts across 6 intensive boot camps and provides active mentorship through LUMS alumni and other business leaders. The program is funded by Ignite. It's an immersive 6 months long program designed to help young Pakistani entrepreneurs develop their ideas into an investor-ready business plan and benefit from a network of experts and business leaders. And the sessions culminate in a capstone investor summit with our hope that some of these, at least, if not all of them, raise capital. Our recent initiative, Entrepreneurship and Conversation series, is essentially tailored to connect talent with some of Pakistan's brightest entrepreneurial minds who are making tangible difference every day through their innovative solutions to combat the country's big problems. We hope that these informal and interactive sessions will inspire more solutions that help Pakistan move forward. So with that, we are absolutely delighted to be joined by Shabahat Shah, who for 2 decades has straddled engineering, entrepreneurship, business, and public policy. In today's talk, we will try to cover 3 facets of his experience as a public servant in Pakistan, a corporate executive, and an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. Rather than regurgitating his extensive and impressive resume, we will touch upon his background throughout his discussion. But in short, he's currently the CEO of National Information Technology Board, which is responsible for e-governance enablement in Pakistan. He is chairman of the board of Ignite, National Technology Fund for Entrepreneurship, and holds board directorships in Park Telecom, Universal Service Fund, and National Telecom Infrastructure Fund. So welcome, Shabahat. For everyone's benefit, could you kindly share your personal journey from UET to MIT and then Harvard, and then in between serving as Nadra's architect on CNIC issuance and Oracle Communications architect of the NFV platform. And thereafter founding 3 startups as an early innovator in the micro satellite technology space. So love to hear that, and would like to keep these sessions as interactive and informal as possible.
Absolutely, Saleem. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really humbled by the intro that you've just done. So starting up on, okay, so you wanted me to go back in time. So yeah, I have graduated from electrical and communications engineering from UT Lahore, and I have an MBA from, I think, one of the most exciting, innovative, and the institution which is responsible for disruption across technologies at large in the world, that is MIT, and then Harvard as well around public policy and public leadership. So it's been an exciting journey from the educational point of view, but I think if you ask me what actually I have learned in across the last 20 years is how can you change the lives of people by creating something based upon technology, using different technologies, disruptive technologies, for the betterment, of the coming generations. So I think I think I'm privileged in that context that I've always been involved in creating something new, right? Since day one. If I go back almost 20 years ago, where I have been, the chief architect of the National Database and Registration Authority, NADRA, for that matter, to craft the CNIC process, which was used to issue and print the new generation, the next generation biometric-centric ID cards. So this 13-digit scheme that all of you have on your CNIC's computerized national ID card was something that was designed by me way back in 2002, 2003. So I think that was one of the biggest paradigm shift that the citizens of Pakistan actually saw, where we drifted away from those manual handwritten national ID cards to computerized biometric center ID cards, and you can see that thing is pretty much become in vogue across Pakistan, and then all the other registration cards and the passports and all the other stuff has been digitized and taking that same kind of a strategy moving forward. So if after Nadra I moved over to Oracle, where I spent almost like 12 years of my career in Oracle. Oracle, it's kind of an organization, kind of an enterprise, which is very, very good engaging people, where their skill set, rests. So they've always put me somewhere where I would be starting up something new. In context of corporate entrepreneurship, I've been part of that organization which started up the first network functions virtualization platform back in 2010. And now you see all these big enterprises building up network functions virtualization platform, which is basically virtualization in the core networks. This particular segment of the telcos has always been centric to specialized hardware, specialized software, which was extremely expensive. So we brought down the economics of those systems to a level where smaller to the smaller scaled telcos could also afford these high, these high price tag centric solutions in the core network. So that was one thing that I did. And then moving on from Oracle, I've been, I landed up in Silicon Valley in year 2010, and it just cannot happen that you are in Silicon Valley and you do not get involved in newer technologies, startups, creating something new across different industries, using technology, so to speak. So the first company that I started up in 2015 was, interestingly, very different than the kind of stuff that I used to do prior to that. So that was the first company which disrupted the space industry by designing microsatellites of only 40 kg, right? So a 40 kg microsatellite means the satellite would be sent to the LEO orbit that is 750 kilometers from the surface of Earth. So the couple of use cases that we carried out based upon those microsatellites is how to track effectively maritime vessels which are traveling on global waters from point A to point B, and after 75 nautical miles away from the coastal belt, there were no means to track those vessels. Because of the curvature of the Earth, the vessel actually gets lost in the mid of waters. So we crafted this tracking mechanism by visualizing these vessels traversing on waters, by getting their location, getting their coordinates locked onto the satellite and beaming up to the nearest command center where there is a team which is looking after the movement of that ship. So there was one company that I started up another company around microsatellite space where anything related to sensors which could be deployed in different fields, agricultural fields, mines for that matter, any far-flung areas where terrestrial connectivity has been a big challenge. We deployed different sensors across all of these far-flung areas, far-flung fields like oil pipelines, agricultural lands, transportation fleet, and start capturing the beacons emitted by those sensors to a common access point, and an access point used to beam it up on the satellite. So it was a more of an IoT's platform built onto the microsatellite. The first company, and I think this is, I think an interesting to mention that, the first company, Spire Global, which I started up, I think if I'm not wrong, it sent about 20 microsatellites up in the space in the equatorial orbit. Interestingly, 4 satellites were actually in my name. They're still orbiting. And right now, the satellite company has more than 110 satellites up in the space. And then eventually, moving on from the satellite world, I saw this opportunity when when the new government came in, that there is a specific program that the government crafted, the new government crafted, where it wanted to digitally transform Pakistan into the next generation digital powerhouse. I think Pakistan was well behind. It's still well behind than the countries that are the neighboring countries in terms of digital automation. So that actually really excited me to come back to Pakistan and give something back, whatever that I've learned in the last 20 years in and around the world. And we have, I can talk a little bit more at length on it. We have crafted a very well thought out strategy how to start small and then keep on digitizing different services of the government, where we would like to address three key things. Number one, how to use technology to enhance transparency across government processes, how to use technology to make government servants more accountable, and how to use technology at the government level to enhance the tax base, right? Of the country, to enhance revenue. So there we have crafted different kind of ways, different kind of methodologies, different kind of solutions to roll it out at the government level. One of the biggest examples that you must have seen in this last particular year, where we have crafted a number of applications using a private-public kind of a partnership model. So I very strongly believe that the government should not invest capital in terms of building solutions at the government level and the government level alone. I strongly feel that in order to remember the 3 things that I mentioned, the third one is to enhance the tax base. I strongly believe that if we can get into the right public-private partnership model, government can enable the private organizations to create solutions which government can use, create their brand equity, and that the private organization can proliferate those solutions across the private sector, and then in tandem, subsequently, government can achieve their objective of enhancing its tax base. So that is my core objective, and that is where actually my heart is. That's where actually I'm working pretty hard at the moment to keep on moving in this direction. I don't know if I've answered Saleem's question.
This is a fantastic overview and a great segue into one of the most important things that we all want to talk about and hear your perspective. So look, Pakistan, while faced with extraordinary circumstances in its response to the pandemic, has been lauded internationally, containing the impact from the virus while sort of balancing lives and livelihoods. It is believed that the data-driven policy decisions were at the heart of this strategy, and your team played a pivotal role in providing real-time decision support that enabled, in my opinion, 3 things. One, the smart lockdowns, the track and trace, and the overall resource management, which is critical in planning and sort of being prepared for the virus. So, love to hear your short sort of overview of the steps you took to serve the country and Pakistan in that particular arena, and then we'll just go on to next steps after that.
Yeah, absolutely, Saleem. So let me begin from the point where we were, right, in February, March. So I would also like to, put up this data point that Pakistan was a little bit lucky that pandemic actually hit us a little bit later a little bit later than the Western European countries, um, Eastern Asian countries of the United States of America, which actually gave us a little bit of time to analyze that once we are hit really hard um, by the pandemic, what exactly we should be doing. So it gave my organization about 3 months of time to think about it and strategize what kind of a data-driven solutions that we should be building, which would help us, to move forward and to combat this pandemic situation whenever it occurs. So by the end of February, the first case which was hit by Pakistan, I think by 26th of February was the day when the first case was hit. So first of all, we wanted to make sure that we would be building all these applications, all these portals, all these platforms, which should be accessible to the common citizens, number one. Number two is Pakistan recently has been, going through a situation after the 18th Amendment that has happened a while ago, that the healthcare and education, both of these segments were, both of these segments were devolved and became a provincial subject. So what was the impact? The impact was, no matter how much would we try sitting in the center, it would be very, very hard to work with all the 7 different geographical regions of Pakistan to collect the data from them individually, build some kind of an integrated model, and to derive decisions out of it sitting in the individual regions. So we had to make sure that there has to be a central repository where we could collect all the data from all these 7 regions and then create a kind of a platform, a visual dashboard where we could derive the decisions. So I think there was a huge collaborative effort on the NCOC part, which was the National Command and Operations Center that we built soon after pandemic, with the help of the liaison officers in the field, with the help of the Health Ministry, Information and Technology Ministry, and the Interior Ministry. We built this particular platform where all the data coming from almost close to 5,000 hospitals spread all over Pakistan, private and public hospitals. We converged that data, onto the central platform and then built analytics dashboard on top of it. Real-time information was coming in from all these hospitals across PPEs, different kind of vents, different, different equipment that we have, dished out to all of these hospitals, which was giving us real-time numbers that what is required where, when the, specifically in the time of need. So once we have built that repository, which we call it RMS, Resource Management System, which is more of an ERP thing, we built that, and on top of that, we started building all of those applications which the citizens, would be able to use. So for example, Park Nigeban app we built on top of this particular platform, which was giving people a real-time access of a vent, of a bed, whenever they required a particular vent or a bed. The application, based upon the physical location of the person, will automatically navigate wherever the vent availability or wherever the bed availability was. Not to the hospital, but actually to a vacant bed or to a vacant vent. This particular application we also give to the emergency responding teams also, and train them how to utilize this particular app platform to provide information and to provide help to a person who is actually in need on the street. We have got great statistics, great feedback from, from our citizens that this particular application platform helped us a great deal in terms of reaching to the bed or the vent or an oxygen mask in time. Then we also built, a smart lockdown system. All right. So as I mentioned to you earlier, we wanted to make sure our private technology sector chips in the best of the best breed of technology that they have used and they have built over the period of time, which could readily be rolled out as well. So if we have gone and tried to build it ourselves, first of all, we would never have that many resources, that skilled resources at the government level, and the number of human resources we required to build them. So we gave an SOS call to the private sector and the best of the best breed of GIS technologies, analytics technologies, AI technologies, companies, they came in and they chipped in, their contribution, and we built this incredibly effective smart lockdown system at the government level, which we use to lock down streets, lock down sectors, lock down neighborhoods, and even lock down, the cities in the end, in such an effective way that I can give you an example, and one particular incident. Then in Islamabad, in I-93 sector, there were about 50 to 60 people identified which were COVID positive, coming from overseas in that particular sector, which we locked down for about 14 days within a span of only 12 hours of identifying the positivity of those people. So I think all of these solutions that we built, they contributed, to an extent that we would be able to build this visualization insight, what's going on in and around Pakistan across all these 7 geographical regions. And we took decisions purely based upon data, how to combat it. I think the results, God has been also very kind on Pakistan on one segment, but I think our people have done really, really good work using technology, using data-based decision-making to get down to this particular level where we are at the moment, that we have been controlling pandemic better than perhaps lots and lots of other countries which are much more developed than Pakistan. I think, Saleem, that's probably, I think would be a little bit of more insight which you wanted to hear.
No, this is perfect. Look, it's the reality of the times we're in, and obviously this takes precedence over anything else. Before we dig into the government's role in enabling and unleashing entrepreneurship, there's one other initiative that I personally would want to laud, and I'm sure others also think very highly of. It's the Asas Social Protection Program. And it's a great initiative by the government. And there is another situation where I think technology can play a tremendous role in enabling the distribution of those funds, and assessing and understanding the needs, and so on and so forth. So if you've done any work on that, love to hear some more about that from a technology perspective, and how you're enabling the execution of the social protection program.
Yeah, so absolutely. So on a SaaS program, from the National IT Board's platform, we have created these analytics dashboard to help the government, help this particular division, the poverty alleviation division, which, where a SaaS program is being run from, to give them an insight that how, this particular, in phase 1 for that matter, I'll talk about phase 1 and phase 2. In phase 1, how we should be distributing funds to the people who are actually in need, by dovetailing this data with the national ID card data, using the national ID card and the family tree, and all the other attributes of the citizens' fields which we have actually captured. It's not an easy job at all to disperse fund across Pakistan. So in phase 1, we use more of we did use technology, but I think in the second phase, we perhaps would be using technology in a very different way. So make no mistake, Pakistan has only got 33% of smartphones penetration, right? Most of the smartphones that people have feature phones, where in the far-flung areas or outside metropolis, where they cannot disseminate data which are required to be disseminated in order for them to qualify for the fund. So in the second phase, we are going to use USSD kind of technologies, where people would be able to create their own online bank account using USSD commands. At this point in time, we have developed different kind of kiosks where people can go in, get their identity verified using thumb impression, and along with their along with their family also. And we have created different pockets across different regions of Pakistan to disperse them through through banking channels. But I think the real technology usage, right, across accurate disbursement of funds using the minimal and the minimum, keeping the operational cost at the minimum, will come in the second phase when we will be using the USSD system, leveraging the environment, the technology environment that Pakistan is at, which is a little bit behind. I think that is going to be a challenge. That's where we would like to contribute more and more.
That's great. That's great. So just a little pivot here. I mean, look, our IT outsourcing and tech telecom export remittances, I believe, will cross $1 billion, $1.2 billion for the first time, and can be a source of significant future growth while traditional industries reach their full potential. So my question is, how do we pivot from an IT services labor arbitrage destination to an innovation hotbed where the next set of unicorns are born? We have a large population. There are big problems that our local startup ecosystem can be sort of enabled to serve, but then also be looking to export our solutions to the rest of the world. So love to hear about your thoughts on what the government's role has been in terms of that pivot, and what early sort of results you're seeing from that.
Yeah, thank you, Saleem, for asking this question. I think I'm really glad that you've asked this question, because again, I'm going to go back to the three objectives that I mentioned, right? And the third one, how to enhance the tech space of Pakistan. I think technology is one particular pillar. Using technology, we can do so much in terms of creating systems where we would enable ourselves to export technology as so to speak, but the other stuff as well, which are actually in high demand across the world, but we do not have means to export it. So one initiative that we have taken in the beginning of this year to create an international payment gateway, or you can also say Pakistan's own payment system, like Alipay of Pakistan, so that the exporters or the product owners or the product manufacturers, the indigenous product manufacturers of Pakistan should be able to export their goods and get these foreign, and Pakistan should be able to get these foreign remittances from wherever in the world directly into the account of the individual sellers. So at the moment, drifting a little bit away from this, what is the biggest problem that we have in terms of exports? People sitting across, outside Pakistan, they absolutely love, a few products that Pakistan actually manufactures in the context of surgical goods, sport goods, handicrafts. There's so much stuff Pakistan makes, which is absolutely unique across the world. They want to buy it, but there are no means for the sellers or the product owners to get the revenue into their account instantaneously. So if we have international payment gateway deployed, and it is dovetailed with the e-commerce network of Pakistan, triggered with the best logistics and delivery system, I think Pakistan's e-commerce or commerce at large can grow manifold in a very short time span. So my timeline to build an international payment gateway or payment system in Pakistan is about 6 to 8 months from now. It was delayed because of a few reasons, which is more on the regulatory compliance perspective. So that is one of the initiatives that I wanted to share today in order to boost the the commerce or the e-commerce of Pakistan. That's number one. Number two is another thing that you mentioned, and I would like to dovetail it with the strategy that we are building. So we intend to build software technology zones in Pakistan in the next 6 months to 8 months. But if you look back with the benefit of the hindsight, I can tell you, putting technology zones in different parts of Pakistan and giving people, the budding companies, incentives on utilities and taxation, blah, blah, it will have an effect, but not to that extent until and unless we have a strategy to enhance and build the skill set of our young generation. So this is where, I'm working very hard to create a framework where if we are going to build a software technology park somewhere, there has to be a policy, there has to be, a program where the skill set of the younger generation, which will perhaps be working there or would be feeding into these software technology parks, their skill set has to be enhanced to the level where they will become competitive. Right now, we are producing almost 25 to 30,000 graduates, tech graduates, around Pakistan. But on a sad note, I can tell you, it's less than 5% of these guys who will actually find them really competitive in the market. They are absolutely talented. I can tell you, you go outside, in the suburbs, in the rural areas of Pakistan, you meet up with these kids who are doing such good stuff with whatever exposure that they have. They actually need a little bit of a holding environment, which will enhance their skill set, and I think they will be very, very competitive. There are a few things, these are a couple of things that we need to, take on war footing to build, the ecosystem where we would be exporting lots and lots of stuff of Pakistan outside, and give confidence to the foreign investors and foreign buyers.
Oh, I think your point about building human capital alongside investment in physical infrastructure is point on. As we look at the history of the nations that have transcended, this technological sort of revolution, we see that yes, there is supportive government policy and supportive mindset that imbues people with a desire to have that startup sort of fire in the belly. But none of that would have been possible without, a massive scale of upskilling or of, building that IT talent. I mean, I think Pakistan should be, how do we go from here to producing, say, call it 80,000 coders a year, right? We're a large country. We talk about a youth dividend. But that dividend isn't going to manifest itself without this appropriate, skills-based training and upliftment. So, what are the government's plans to address that? Local universities, or trying to start some vocational, for lack of a better word, training institutes that enable people to sort of acquire these skills and be productive day one, right?
Yeah. So, Saleem, I think at the government level, there are a couple of things I can share with you what we are doing at the moment to enhance the skill set, and there are a few things which we have scheduled in the first half of this year. So, I strongly believe.
Shabahat, looks like your internet connection has stalled. Is anyone else having the same issue?
He has come in, pitched up a program to train the trainers of different universities across Pakistan on project-based learning. Right? So project-based learning means what? Means there are real projects on which he is going to take these kids and make them work across different segments of AI, for that matter, backend data center systems, front-end application center systems, and get them to a level where they could further train people in the universities and create different kind of projects within the nation and and then market them outside as well. So there are two things that I'm doing. One is creating this kind of a program where the foreign trainers will come in and train the trainers of the universities, number one. And number two, liaison with the commercial attaches, rather, or the commercial counselors in different consulates of Pakistan across the world, and then market our products, right, and our projects outside, to gather requirements where these guys can actually deliver on the real-time projects. I think that is perhaps the best way where we can enhance the skill set in a short period of time. The second phase, I am actually liaison with our consulates across the world and putting them in touch with organizations like Ignite, right, which has got a charter to incubate newer and newer companies, enhance the skill set of people, to accelerate, this process. So the technology curve has always been moving very, very fast, as all of us know. In about 3 to 4 years time span, the technologies changes over their head. So we need to move fast, and we need to execute on these kind of strategies rather than sit and wait and leave it to the individuals to do it.
Yeah, and NIC Lahore, along with NICs in other cities, are direct beneficiaries of this Ignite funding and program. So we value that very much. I have a long list of hands raised here from our startup, Shabahat, than normal. So I'm gonna sort of go to those questions and have you interact directly with these startups in our program, and then we'll take some questions from the general audience as well from Facebook. So Saima, do you want to queue up our startups? And I would just request that they do a very crisp, 10-second introduction on their own startup. So Shabahat has a little bit better feel for the types of startups that are being incubated in Lahore and Quetta, and then ask their question directly.
Sure.
And feel free to be bilingual. I'm sorry we kept the initial part in English simply because we had a request from a number of global corporations to sort of log in and listen in. So we just decided to keep the talk in English, but for the Q&A purposes, we're happy to go bilingual.
Okay, thank you so much. Itika, can we have the first set of questions? Amber, a short introduction about yourself and then your question.
Hi, this is Amber, and I am the co-founder of a digital learning platform called Study Assist. Basically, we are building a marketplace for 6 to 18-year-old learners, jahan pe they can connect with live teachers and courses based on their interest, especially 21st century skills. So in short, think about a live LinkedIn learning platform for the 6 to 18 years old to incubate and instill the love of lifelong learning, which is quite interesting because we just left off on a note jahan pe aapne baat ki about skill-based education. Now, having looked into a lot of the programs, Shabahat, that you've launched in the last couple of months, one that really particularly caught my interest was the e-Taaleem project, where you've partnered with a lot of organizations who are playing in the edtech vertical to create access for a lot of great content for the population of Pakistan. Isme mera ek sawal ye tha because there are a lot of players or a lot of companies who are trying to set up edtech jo hai relatively new vertical hai jo ki evolve kar raha hai. COVID has definitely accelerated the transformation. So there is a lot on the learning curve jo ki abhi discover karne wala hai. Lekin from a governance body point of view, aap jab partnership karte hain and when you sort of give access to such institutions, how do you ensure from your end that learning effectiveness is being measured, ताकि उसको ना सिर्फ measure किया जा सके बल्कि improve किया जा सके, ताकि ये जो skill based learning है या फिर curriculum learning है इसको ना सिर्फ access दिया जा सके बल्कि उसकी application भी effective बनाई जा सके.
Thank you, Ahmad, for asking this question again. I think we have been talking about e-talim, e-learning for quite some time now, and of course we are. So इसको इस तरह भी आप देखें, which is I think important to mention also कि ये हम ना पाकिस्तान में ये हम पहली दफा ऐसा काम कर रहे हैं, right? We have at the government level at least, government has predominantly been lagging behind in these kind of initiatives. तो पहली चीज तो ये है कि हमने इसका जो curriculum devise किया from class 1 to class 8, अगर आप if you have been following e-talim, so we have actually done lots and lots of consultations with public and as well as with the private sector कि हमें अगर एक standardized curriculum डालना है government level पे, लेकिन standardized ही होना चाहिए क्योंकि this is going to be used across Pakistan from north to south. तो पहली चीज तो है कि standardized होना चाहिए. अगर standardized भी अगर हम कर रहे हैं तो इसका लेवल इतना हाई ना कर दें कि जो के मिडिल एंड द लोअर क्लास के लोग हैं जिनको एक्सपोजर ज्यादा नहीं है, घर बैठे हुए एक्सपोजर ज्यादा नहीं है, उनको कोई ट्यूटरिंग इतनी ज्यादा अवेलेबल नहीं थी, वो इसको हैंडल ही ना कर सके. तो हमने इसका करिकुलम भी ऐसे डिवाइस किया है कि it has to stay in the middle somewhere, not too high up, not too low, कि लोग इसको हैंडल नहीं कर सके. पहली चीज तो ये कि और फिर इन लाइन विद दैट इसकी मेजरमेंट भी हमने वैसे ही रखी है. अच्छा, इसकी मेजरमेंट के लिए हमने एक काम हम करने लगे हैं अभी आगे कि वी वुड एक ऐसा टाइम आएगा कि जब हम वी विल गो एंड invite these kids who have been going through this curriculum to go through a standard kind of an examination also, standard examination, जिस पे हम गेज कर सकेंगे कि हमारा ये प्रोग्राम इफेक्टिव है कि नहीं, कितना इफेक्टिव है, what kind of changes that we need to do, and whether we need to do something else to make sure कि class, for example, class 5 का जो curriculum है वो वाकई class 5 का common standard curriculum है बाकी सब students के लिए. So Abhi, we are also, and cutting the long story, cutting the answer to a little bit of a more precisely, हम अभी ना कुछ learning phase में भी हैं इसकी measurement के, लेकिन हमारा goal बड़ा simple है. Goal simple हमारा है कि हमने इसको एक standard रखना है for all public, not too high, not too low, और उसी पे इसको हम measure भी करेंगे eventually through standard examinations.
Okay, thank you for that. And just following on or building on that, मेरा जो दूसरा सवाल था वो ये था कि जो आप partnerships drive करते हैं, because अभी there are a lot of learnings that are going to be amassed and this is going to evolve in the process. तो अभी जो partnerships हैं ये model किस तरह से evolve करेगा? Because now there are a lot of players like us as well who focus on more after school, topics, 21st century learning skills के ऊपर हो गया. So how can we also sort of participate in this journey with you to support and sort of help you build this forward as well for the nation? Is there a structure to it? Is there a process to it?
Yeah. There is a structure and there is a framework which Ministry of Education has devised. और उन्होंने ये framework जो है ये एक दो academies जो online academies थी उनके साथ share किया, और there have been a few academies like Noon Academy, one I know, Muse is another one that I remember, which like kind of fitting like a glove in that framework. उसको उन्होंने थोड़ा सा promote भी किया e-talim की website के ऊपर, but there are no holds barred here. Whatever e-program, ed tech program that you would like to launch and you have already launched and you have started getting traction, if you can have a conversation with the Ministry of Education at the central level, they would definitely be very happy to accommodate you in some segment or entirely as a whole or some segment of it if it falls within their own framework. They are very, you will find them very receptive as well. That's good news. They have deployed people from the private sector to build this ecosystem, right? This is not entirely government's initiative. There are lots of NGOs who've been chipping in. There are representative from private schools who are pitching in, that what kind of an online program that we should be, running at the government level. So I would I would strongly recommend you to go and meet up with the Ministry of Education representative, at the federal level, and share your program. They would love to hear from you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amber. Now we have Daniel from Soch.
Assalamualaikum. So my name is Daniel Bashir.
Walaikum assalam.
I'm the founder of Soch. Soch basically एक और edtech startup है, लेकिन इसका मॉडल थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट है. हम बुक्स को और ऑगमेंटेड रियलिटी को साथ साथ जोड़ रहे हैं वाया स्मार्टफोन्स, ताकि वो बच्चे और लोग जिनके पास मीन्स नहीं है, फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे साइंस लैब, मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द स्कूल्स डू नॉट हैव दैट, हम आपके बुक्स के ऊपर ही मतलब सारे के सारे 3D एक्सपेरिमेंट्स एक वर्चुअल रियल टाइम एनवायरनमेंट में आपको दिखा सकते हैं टू एनहांस द लर्निंग. चले, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई लव यू इनिशिएटिव्स जो आप लोगों ने किए, फॉर एग्जांपल जो ई तालीम, आई हैव सीन कि आप लोगों ने पार्टनरशिप भी की हुई है मूव्स के साथ, नून के साथ, तलीमाबाद के साथ. लेकिन माय क्वेश्चन इज वेरी बेसिक. जैसे आपने कहा था कि पाकिस्तान में स्मार्टफोन की पेनिट्रेशन ऑलमोस्ट 83% है और मेजॉरिटी ऑफ सैडली पॉवर्टी 9 के आसपास ही है. इंटरनेट इज एन एक्सपेंस, एक लग्जरी एक टाइप से. जैसे कोविड के टाइम से मेजॉरिटी ऑफ अस कैन नॉट अफोर्ड टू स्ट्रीम वीडियोस ऑन अ डेली बेसिस. तो व्हाट इज द नेशनल इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी बोर्ड डूइंग अबाउट दिस, कि आप कैसे कर रहे हैं कि हम सबको मैसेज के ऊपर इंटरनेट एक्सेस मिल सके?
Daniel, great question again. I will do a little bit of a segue, segue into something else that I would like to discuss here. I would like to share with you guys. So Ignite, I'm chairman of the board of Ignite. So that's on the entrepreneurship side. I also sit on the board of USF, which is a Universal Service Fund. The whole purpose of Universal Service Fund is to eliminate gray areas, from Pakistan where people do not have access to data, right? So USF provides connectivity to underserved and unserved areas of Pakistan. We have, by the way, I'm really feel excited to answer this question because we have recently changed our strategy of, of going into those rural areas where people had a vested interest to put, to enhance connectivity. We are going at length now from Gilgit-Baltistan to Karachi to go and aggressively plant, aggressively plant these towers to enhance the broadband connectivity of Pakistan, number one, to enhance wireless connectivity in Pakistan in all those areas by subsidizing all of these teleco operators, right, to an extent that they should be able to provide data connectivity on the phone as well as fiber to the rural areas. Only a year ago, there were only 4 big projects of fiber connectivity. This year alone, we have targeted 18 projects where we are rolling out fiber in the most distant rural areas of Balochistan, KP, interior Sindh, even the southern Punjab areas also. So this has been a talk at the Ministry of IT level that we cannot achieve that kind of an impact of disseminating educational programs across Pakistan, enhancing, we were talking about e-export, right? How can you do e-export using your mobile phones when you do not have connectivity? So we need to put this kind of a backbone across Pakistan to enhance connectivity if we want to, provide e-talim to different parts of the country where kids do not have access to schools, or if the schools are closed down. This is absolutely being, being chased aggressively by Ministry of IT. USF is a fund where we collect massive amounts of funds from all the telecom operators to just enhance connectivity across Pakistan. So I think you will see lots and lots of difference in the next coming 12 months in terms of connectivity and smartphones penetration.
Okay, thank you very much. मेरा एक और छोटा सा सवाल है, that's a bit general. Okay, so मैं देख रहा हूँ कि जो नेशनल टेक्नोलॉजी बोर्ड है वो बेसिकली ट्रांसपेरेंसी चाह रही है इन ऑल मिनिस्ट्रीज. आर यू गाइस डीलिंग विद समथिंग कि हम कैश पेमेंट से एक क्रेडिट पेमेंट की तरफ आ जाए ऑन मैसेज अगेन? क्योंकि ऑनेस्टली फॉर स्मॉलर स्टार्टअप्स लाइक अस, अगर हम कुछ ऑनलाइन खरीदते बेचते, जो कैश ऑन डिलीवरी है दैट इज अ बिट एक्सपेंसिव या नॉट सो फ्रेंडली फॉर अस, ठीक है, और लोग रिलक्टेंट भी होते हैं बाय ऑनलाइन. करंटली जो सिस्टम है ऑनलाइन पेमेंट्स का, वो तो वन या तो इतना ट्रस्टवर्दी नहीं है, टू वो लोग उससे अवेल नहीं कर सकते. लाइक ऑनेस्टली एक एवरेज पाकिस्तानी के लिए क्रेडिट कार्ड लेना भी बहुत मुश्किल काम है. तो आर यू गाइस डूइंग समथिंग अबाउट दिस?
Yes, we are. So by the end of this week, you will see an announcement. Okay, so I should not be disclosing it that much, but you will be seeing and you will be watching an announcement at the federal government level, where we will be rolling out a micro payment gateway. Right? So this micro payment gateway will be used for domestic payments only. Remember, I talked about international payment gateway, which will be for international exports. Yes. But micro payment gateway is going to be for domestic payments. So all banks, all microfinance banks, branchless banking, everything will be connected to this MPG, and this MPG will be back integrated with all your apps, right? Which all your fintech apps, which are being, their APIs will be exposed for free for all of these fintech applications to be used within their ecosystem and provide leverage to people, to do online transactions. It would be I think it would be a massive step towards what you've just mentioned. Cash on delivery is unreliable. Cash on delivery has got, many teething issues where the buyer and the seller both are on the taking end. Logistical, this logistical piece between the seller and the buyer still needs to be taken care of. But at least on the cash handling side, I think you are going to see much more improved ecosystem once this MPG gets into place. What NITB has done, I can share it with you, in order to enhance business friendliness with the government for the citizens. We have actually created a platform which is called Ict Platform, which we have only rolled out for Islamabad at the moment, and we intend to roll it out in other parts of the country. That this Ict Platform is running about 44 services now, where citizens sitting in their home can actually leverage on the government services like birth certificate, like token tax, like land transfer, like reporting any kind of fraudulent activity, registering FIR, sexual harassment, reports. You can all do it online. Even your payments, we have actually provided payments online as well, digital payments online, by connecting the bank accounts with one link, using that connectivity where people are accustomed to using their debit cards. So that we have done that at the ICT level. We are going to integrate it with the MPG, the gateway, where you will have everything under the sun to transact, mutually between one bank to another bank, no matter what kind of a bank that is. So these are the initiatives that we are taking. I think we are moving in the right direction. You may call us that, hey, government is moving slow, but I think we are moving in the right direction, and we are trying to move as fast as we can. Given that we have to deal with the government processes, we have to make sure that the taxpayers' money is being spent in the right place as well.
Shabahat, I would just ask a question that I've seen on Facebook. So startups are asking, कि भाई जो हमारे AI की startups हैं, how can we collaborate with the government of Pakistan? And the problem there being that competing against the larger, more established names is somewhat difficult because the RFP requirements in the government procurement processes require that level of experience. So that shuts out, the startups. And I believe India it recently or
Yeah.
relatively recently has gone to the model of sourcing about 20% of their overall procurement through startups or to encourage the young entrants. So as my team sort of queues up the next question, I mean, I thought I'll ask you this and hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So just to be very clear here, and just to be very openly, I want to openly share it with you guys that actually I am actually working with a few startups which do not have any brand, but they had an incredibly exuberant, I would say, exuberant use cases developed in exactly the area where we were working, right? That is healthcare. And I can share that example with you also. There was a startup which came up with this unique idea that how we can detect the distance between two individuals and how we can map these patterns to a mob, like a big mob, where we don't know whether the SOP compliance of COVID SOP compliance is being met, right? So I'm actually working with those individuals who have built this beautiful use case using AI technologies, and they are working with the government. The business model that I have crafted for them, right, to begin with, that hey, you do not have a reference, but you've got a technology. We are going to give you the space to work and deploy your solution across different other segments also using your brand name, using your logo. So you will be able to build instant credibility and reliability. And then you can, and I'm also allowing them, to use this kind of, brand buildup or brand visibility in the private sector also, to give them some kind of, headroom to grow. And these guys are getting momentum, right? Because they have been backed by the government, because government is vouching for them that their solution is being used by the government. So I think this is the first step that I can take. But being part of the government, I think we have to comply to the government process as well. If we are going to put something, on a public tender, we have to put, all of these guys, in a competitive mode to come up and win that tender. I am actually asking the smaller ones to dovetail their solution and collaborate, with the bigger players also. And I'm giving incentive to the bigger players that if they are, helping the smaller ones to piggyback on them and present their solution to us, I would give those the big wigs a little bit of an incentive if they are bringing the smaller ones along with them.
Next, we have Radif from Ripe. Radif, a little quick overview about your startup and your question, please. Some of your questions have been answered, Radif, I think, in the previous conversation. So let's move to the ones that you would really want Shabahat to answer.
Yes, sure. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Adif, and I'm the co-founder of a startup called Ripe. So, according to a research, Pakistan contributes.
Startup name?
Ripe, R-I-P-E.
Name again?
Ripe. Yes.
Okay.
So, according to a research, Pakistan contributes towards 40% towards the fresh food wasted around the world. And we identified a problem that most of this food is wasted during transportation. So we came up with the idea to reduce the food wasted during transportation. So recently I came across a headline saying that Prime Minister Imran Khan shuts down the Punjab Free Wi-Fi project. So my question was, what were the objectives? What objectives did the government have in mind with the free Wi-Fi project? Why did they shut it down? And how are they planning to achieve these objectives now?
Yeah, so one of the reasons that the Punjab government, right, it was their decision, right, not like federal government's decision. Punjab's government's decision to shut it down, it was purely based upon security, data security issues. There have been some instances that were quoted that people's identity was stolen. And they probably took that decision pretty much upfront. that we need to shut it down, until and unless we've got some kind of a security model or some kind of a regulation built across it. I think that is primarily the reason. Otherwise, at the government level, we are actually promoting free Wi-Fi. There are multiple unsolicited proposals that we have got at the government level, at the Ministry of IT level, where people wanted to have a chat with USF, who has chartered to enhance connectivity across Pakistan, that how our solution, can, give you a little bit of a kick in terms of putting, solutions across different parts of Pakistan to enhance connectivity. So we are pretty open. The only thing is that we also need to make sure that whatever solution that we roll out, it should be secure enough, to the extent that at least the identities are not stolen that easily. So I think that was probably the only reason. Otherwise, government is all for it.
Right. My second question, I mean, you've already answered a bit of this while talking with Daniel. You said, I mean, it's a sight of relief to know how the government is working on such projects which you mentioned. And as you mentioned, the government is currently working on, providing districts, small districts, somewhere in interior Sindh with the connectivity. So my question was, how long are these districts are going to be still deprived of the internet connectivity? How far in the future is the government planning to connect them to the digital world?
Yeah. So Radif, it's also a kind of a catch-22 situation. Catch-22 situation in the sense that I would, if you ask me, I have actually seen a plan and I have signed off on a plan where almost 80%, 70 to 80% of Pakistan can be rolled out, theoretically at least, or the connectivity can be reduced theoretically if we take actions today, right? Theoretically it can be. 80% of the unserved or the served areas, right? Okay. Having said that, that 80% has got lots and lots of other political, geographical, and security issues that would limit us to go there and place our towers or fiber or or something of that sort, or Wi-Fi for that matter, right? I think from that particular plan, from that particular perspective, it should take us at least year and a half from now on to cover 60 to 70% of that particular segment that we have devised that we have to cover. And the rest of the 40% is perhaps, believe you me, it would probably take 5 to 10 years because of the political scenario, because the people do not want connectivity there. I mean, think about far-flung areas or the tribal areas of Balochistan for that matter, or Sindh, or in the north, or in the KP province. That is a different kind of a dynamic, different variables, that operate there. But whatever is doable, I think a safe bet should be 18 months that we should have some kind of an infrastructure there, because there are almost 18 to 20 projects going on where the population is significant, where we can roll out the connectivity.
Right. Thank you for this answer. Just one last question. At the moment, the fresh food market is very haphazard. So is the government trying to incorporate the concept of blockchain in the fresh food industry in the coming, let's say, 5 years or 10 years? Are they thinking about it?
So very frankly speaking, I would like to learn from you, Ladeep. You are into that business, in the fresh food industry. I can talk about the technology, so to speak. Blockchain, I have got a plan to utilize blockchain technology in the management system. And to begin with, it's on my cards. Perhaps you will see some kind of a visibility by mid this year, that the land records will start coming on to the land records is going to be digitized, and we'll start using blockchain technology to secure the transfer of titles of land records. Right? This has been the biggest issue in Pakistan. How can I use it in the fresh food business? You need to tell me. I would love to hear from you.
I mean, I've been researching it a lot, and it's a bit of haphazard situation. People don't know how much is wasted. People don't care about it. It's wasted during the transportation. It's wasted in the mandis, as we say. So there's. I was just wondering if there's a way. I mean, if the government is looking to plan a blockchain system where they can record the information, how much is wasted where, how can we reduce it and all. I just want to know if the government is thinking in that direction to streamline, the food market.
I mean, one thing is for sure, Latif, that there are multiple industries that we know, that we understand, where the problems are pretty significant, and the food system, the food chain problem is very significant, right? The food wastage. I think this is a real problem. Once we identify the problem and what kind of a solution that we need, to achieve, technology is secondary, right? Technology comes secondary. First of all, we need to understand that this is the right solution, for this particular problem. Technologies could just be the enablers, but solution identification is the key. If we think that a particular technology, blockchain kind of technology, is the right solution for them, I don't know. If we think, then we have got things pretty much lined up to roll out blockchain technology in Pakistan across different segments.
Right. Thanks a lot, Shabahat Sahab. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Shabahat, there are a bunch of questions actually related to your last comment. I mean, so how do these startups reach out to NITB or to you and your team with any sort of creative ideas they might have to pitch to the government of Pakistan?
Yeah. So one of the things that also, Saleem, NIC's Ignite, is one particular platform where we have got money also to fund the startups which come with a unique idea, which we feel, based upon the framework that we have devised at the government level, that this particular technology or this particular idea, if it is converted to a practical reality, it will have a significant impact, right? So this is one thing that you can actually send an unsolicited proposal to Ignite, and there is a project team there which will evaluate it and will come back to you for the next round of discussions, after which they can actually fund you. They will place you in one of the NICs, and the NICs will take care of you from incubation to a point where they think that this particular company has graduated from NIC. I've also got a plan to change a little bit of the charter of NICs also moving forward. Changing the plan because the environment is changing, right? This, we demand something different than the startups, from the technology startups in general, than what we used to see like 3-4 years ago. So I think that is something that we've got to do. I'm also putting some kind of an accelerators behind my people to evaluate these proposals faster. So I think this is another thing that we were lagging behind. We were not evaluating them faster and giving them a response in a speedy way. But I'm also, and moreover, I'm also putting, enhancing the team also from different private sectors as co-opted advisors to the Ignite, so that they can evaluate your proposals with all the fairness and all the competitiveness, in mind. So there are a lot of things that are happening, but a short answer to your question: send your unsolicited proposals to Ignite. Every unsolicited proposal is entertained, and we will make sure that we get back to you with whatever answer which is required.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Zishan from Manzil. Zishan.
जी हेलो अस्सलाम वालेकुम शाबात सर, कैसे हैं आप? ठीक ठाक हैं?
Good, Zishan, thank you.
Okay, my startup name is Manzil. Just one line introduction of Manzil is a long distance like carpooling and cargo pooling service. it's like built on the cost saving model, not on earning model, unlike Uber and Careem. Okay, moving on to my questions. I will extend the question of the previous, which was about the blockchain. As he mentioned कि blockchain चाहिए हमें हर इंडस्ट्री के लिए, हमें एक्चुअली हेल्थ केयर इंडस्ट्री को भी इग्नोर नहीं करना चाहिए। पाकिस्तान में इस टाइम सबसे बड़ा इशू हमारा जो हेल्थ केयर सेक्टर है वहाँ पे डेटा कंपाइल नहीं हो पा रहा, गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल्स में नहीं पता चल रहा, प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स में नहीं पता चल रहा, कोई इंटीग्रेटेड सिस्टम्स नहीं है, और अल्टीमेटली आप देखें कि इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज भी शायद पाकिस्तान में इसी वजह से पेनिट्रेट नहीं कर पा रही इन द हेल्थ केयर सेक्टर, बिकॉज डेटा इज नॉट अप टू द मार्क। तो ब्लॉकचेन कैन हेल्प हेल्थ केयर एंड एजुकेशन सेक्टर एज वेल। दैट्स माय सजेशन ओनली। And now moving on to my questions, Mr. Shabahat, मुझे एक बार आज से कोई 2 साल पहले क्लाइंट मिला था ओवरसीज से, like I was about to sell him my software with the source code. अब इशू ये हुआ कि हमारा एक ट्रस्ट फैक्टर का इशू बन गया था, वो ओवरसीज था, मुझे उससे पेमेंट का इशू था, उसे मुझसे सॉफ्टवेयर के सोर्स कोड का इशू था। He suggested, is there any escrow model in the country? I said, I don't know about escrow. Then I checked and Googled and I came to know what is escrow. Escrow is LC. LC just like a textile product. तो हमारे कोई बैंक ने हमें सपोर्ट करने से इनकार कर दिया, और उस क्लाइंट ने मुझसे that was about a $500,000 डील जो मैंने 2 साल पहले सिर्फ इस वजह से लूज की, एस्क्रो मॉडल नहीं था। अब मैं सरप्राइज था कि वो मुझे श्रीलंका में मिला। श्रीलंका एक कंट्री जहां पे पेपॉल तो अब आ गया, एस्क्रो आज से 3 साल पहले का है। तो इस तरह के हमारे बहुत सारे लोग जैसे और भी लोग ऐसे हैं जो शायद इस तरह की अपॉर्चुनिटी को लूज कर रहे होंगे। अगर हमारे पास एक तो एस्क्रो मॉडल आ जाए, एस्क्रो एग्रीमेंट्स का कोई कॉन्सेप्ट फॉर द आईटी कंपनीज आ जाए, आई थिंक वी कैन एस्केलेट एक्सपोनेंशियली इन द आईटी एक्सपोर्ट्स। तो मुझे एक तो इस पे आपका कमेंट चाहिए होगा सर।
ग्रेट क्वेश्चंस जिशान। मैं इस पे कोई 1 घंटा बोल सकता हूँ, but I'll try to be little bit precise, otherwise Saleem is going to raise an eyebrow here. देखें, मैंने थोड़ा सा आपको मेंशन किया था, please wait for another 6 months or so. I'm actually running behind about 3 months for issues that I want to discuss. I don't want to discuss here, which all pertains to regulatory issues. मेरी कोशिश है कि पाकिस्तान पेमेंट सिस्टम को लॉन्च किया जाए। पाकिस्तान पेमेंट सिस्टम इज द अली पे ऑफ पाकिस्तान। उससे फायदा क्या होगा आपको? अच्छा, उसमें एस्क्रो, पहले तो आपका ना, मैं ये जो क्वेश्चन है ना, लेट मी स्क्वॉश दिस क्वेश्चन इमीडिएटली। जब पेमेंट सिस्टम आता है ना, किसी कंट्री का अपना इंडिजिनस पेमेंट सिस्टम आता है, तो वो एस्क्रो अकाउंट जो है ना ऑटोमेटिकली आर टेकन केयर ऑफ, बिकॉज पेमेंट अगर आपको नेदरलैंड से किसी बंदे ने बैठ के किसी गुड्स के अगेंस्ट रेमिटेंस की है, किसी गुड्स के अगेंस्ट, तो जब तक वो गुड्स जो है उस बंदे को डिलीवर ना हो जाए और किसी ऐसे लेवल की डिलीवरी ना पहुंचे, जब तक वो बंदा सेटिस्फाई ना हो, तो वो पैसे सेलर तक पहुंचने नहीं चाहिए। तो जब वो रेमिटेंस करेगा उस गुड्स के अगेंस्ट, तो वो एक एस्क्रो अकाउंट में जाएगा, ठीक है। एन एस्क्रो अकाउंट इज गोइंग टू बी पार्ट ऑफ द पेमेंट सिस्टम। तो वो तो आपका प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएगा उधर, ठीक है। दूसरी चीज ये है कि आपके बैंक्स जो हैं, देखिए बैंक्स के पास ना अभी तक all banks of Pakistan have got gateways, but all of these gateways piggyback on MasterCard और Visa cards network, ठीक है। yes. उनको Visa card और MasterCard के नेटवर्क के ऊपर ही रिलाई करना होता है, उनकी पॉलिसीज के ऊपर, उनकी सारी जो रेगुलेशन है फॉर पाकिस्तान कंप्लाई करना होता है। तो उनकी रेगुलेशंस में अनफॉर्चुनेटली और पॉलिसीज में अभी तक पाकिस्तान के एस्क्रो अकाउंट्स इस लेवल के नहीं है कि वो $500,000 की जो आप बात कर रहे हैं। ये सिर्फ और सिर्फ तब होगा जब हम उन नेटवर्क से इंडिपेंडेंट नहीं हो जाते। सो पाकिस्तान पेमेंट सिस्टम इज गोना मेक अस इंडिपेंडेंट ऑफ वीजा एंड मास्टरकार्ड्स नेटवर्क। सो वी विल हैव आवर ओन नेटवर्क, वी विल हैव आवर ओन एस्क्रो, वेयर अ पर्सन सिटिंग इन स्वीडन विल बी एबल टू सेंड क्रोनोस टू पाकिस्तान's account directly, bypassing all the networks, right? So keep this in the back of your mind. That's how your problem is going to be addressed.
जैसे आपने बोला ना कि सिर्फ another 6 month वेट कर लें, सर हम तो पिछले 5 साल से वेट कर रहे हैं। तो कुछ इंडस्ट्री में रेवोल्यूशन आ जाए, कुछ ऐसा हो जाए। आईटी एक्सपोर्ट, अगर मैं आपको एक और छोटा सा सिर्फ मेंशन करना चाह रहा हूँ कि वेबसाइट है कोड कैनियन, इस पे लोग अपना सोर्स कोड सेल करते हैं, अपने सॉफ्टवेयर बेचते हैं। इट्स वेरी सरप्राइजिंग फॉर अस कि श्रीलंका और बांग्लादेश के सेलर्स वहां पे पाकिस्तान से ज्यादा हैं। लेकिन टैलेंट पाकिस्तान में ज्यादा है। और उसकी रीजन सिर्फ ये है कि हमारे पास ये जो आपने बात की कि पेमेंट सिस्टम्स नहीं है, एस्क्रो एग्रीमेंट्स नहीं है, बायर्स का हम पे ट्रस्ट इशू का एक इशू है बहुत बड़ा। तो प्लीज इफ यू कैन रिजॉल्व इट एज क्विकली एज पॉसिबल। आप देखिएगा कि गवर्नमेंट को जॉब्स भी क्रिएट नहीं करना पड़ेंगी आफ्टर डूइंग दिस। हमारे जो आईटी पूल है, आईटी टैलेंट पूल है, दे आर लाइक कैपेबल इनफ टू मैनेज थिंग्स एट देयर ओन। हमें अपवर्क से पेमेंट लेने में मसले आ रहे हैं। हमें $1000 के लिए बैंक कहता है कि ये फॉर्म फिल करो। भाई $1000 तो मेरे अकाउंट में 5 मिनट में आ जाने चाहिए, मैं कौन सा फॉर्म फिल करके दूं? हमें 15-15 दिन के बाद रेमिटेंस हमारे अकाउंट्स में $1-2 के आ रहे होते हैं, विच इज वेरी पेनफुल। ये एक ऐसा इशू है जिसे मेरा ख्याल है कि एज सुन एज पॉसिबल एड्रेस करना चाहिए। अच्छा, वन लास्ट क्वेश्चन आपसे सर, लाइक देखें, हमारे डॉक्टर्स की बहुत डिमांड है अब्रॉड, doctors and engineers की, and the reason behind it, they pass through the rigorous study and then the testing and then the house job of 1 year. हमारा आईटी पूल 5 साल या 4 साल की डिग्री के बाद सीवी लेके बाहर आता है और उसे वर्डप्रेस और पीएचपी से ज्यादा किसी चीज का नहीं पता होता, और वो भी वो अपने आप शायद गूगल से सीख रहा होता है। यूनिवर्सिटी कॉलेजेस में सिवाय म्यूजिकल कॉन्सर्ट के अलावा कुछ नहीं बताया जा रहा। तो अगर ऐसा कर लिया जाए कि हर डिग्री प्रोग्राम के साथ, चाहे वो बीएस केमिस्ट्री है, चाहे वो बीएस स्टैट है, चाहे वो बीएस आईटी है या बीएस कंप्यूटर साइंसेस है, उसके साथ 1 साल की हाउस जॉब विद बिजनेस प्लान कर दिया जाए कि आफ्टर डूइंग दिस, एग्जीक्यूटिंग दिस बिजनेस प्लान और डूइंग दिस हाउस जॉब, चाहे आप अपनी कंपनी क्रिएट करो, चाहे किसी की जगह पे काम करो, तो फिर आपको डिग्री मिलेगी। तो मेरा ख्याल है कि ये हमारे टैलेंट का जो एक और इशू है वो भी रिजॉल्व हो जाएगा।
Yeah, good suggestion. Zishan, point taken.
Thank you very much.
इसमें एक और चीज में
I will definitely.
शबाद, इसमें एक और पॉइंट मैं ये ऐड करूंगा कि देखें जो इस ट्रेनिंग का फोकस है वो इतना अप्लाइड है कि अगर आप कोडिंग सीख रहे हैं या कुछ आप आई डोंट नो AR VR जिसमें भी आप स्पेशलाइज कर रहे हैं, so there is demand for live projects that are available, like internships while your work study programs, right? I mean, the work study programs अगर बनाए जाएं तो I think Zishan का point is fits right in there, because you're basically getting on the job training. You're actually even getting paid for doing that work, and you're seeing कि आपकी quality किस level पे है in real world versus just learning something from the books and waiting to get a job afterwards. So इस तरह का अगर कोई आप इनिशिएटिव
सलीम, देखिए मैंने तो आपको ना देखो सलीम, मैंने तो आपको ना शुरू में मेंशन किया ना, मैंने I got the numbers, right? मैंने आपको शुरू में मेंशन किया 25 to 30,000 tech graduates every year our universities are producing. Less than 5% are job ready, right? Less than. Why? Because they are being taught in the conventional way, technology in a conventional way, through the textbooks, through whatever projects that they're learning. It is in a small closed environment, probably not exposed to the practical realities of the world or the practical. Many already, this is something that I've started at a small level, and I hope this is going to proliferate, that there are people who are coming from abroad who are going to train them on real-time projects, right? Real-time projects mean the projects which are going on at the moment. That's number one. And secondly, believe you me, there have been people on the Western European side who have been calling our consulates that we have heard Pakistan's skill set is absolutely brilliant, brilliant not just from the skill set point of view. Our communication skills are much more superior than so many other countries where we can actually communicate better, right? With those countries than our neighboring country for that matter. So they have been coming to our consulates and asking that, do you have access or can you give us contact details of your technology software houses where we can send our queries and get a response back from them? And they didn't know, our consulates did not know. So that is another area that I'm trying to touch upon in the next year or so, 6 months rather, where I'll try my best to put them in touch with Ministry of IT, with the commercial consulates there in our foreign consuls, in Pakistan foreign consulates, and try to see if we can get those projects and connect our younger generation working in different universities and expose it to them. And if they can build those solutions for them, that would be absolutely brilliant. So I'm just crafting this particular model. Some of them, it's already in vogue. We are working in a small segment at the moment, but we need to take it to the next level.
Thank you, Zishan. We have Sana from Resource.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, thank you for such an insightful session. My name is Sana. My startup is Resource. We work with organizations, companies, and institutions for waste reduction at source. First, we analyze and quantify and categorize their waste to identify disposal streams. And then once that is sorted, we target their upstream activities to identify sources of massive generation and then target them and implement strategies for reduction. My first question is there any is there any policy implemented by the government enforced on telecom and other companies for public data protection?
Okay, so there has been one draft of data protection which has been crafted by Ministry of IT and Telecom, which is actually complete at the moment. We have just given this draft to other ministries to give their comments. This particular draft was completed in the beginning of December, end of November actually. It is being circulated. We are getting comments, and this is going to go to different entities within the government. I think the review process is very, very important because there are so many different, government organizations which are doing stuff very differently than the others. So this is a very, very important document, very, very important policy that we have to roll out in terms of data protection.
Go play here.
I think you are going to see the data protection ordinance to go to the House to become an act very soon. I think it should be coming out publicly, perhaps in another 4 to 6 weeks. That's my best guess. But it's going to be dished out by Ministry of IT, and the first draft is ready. Answering to your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My second question is, how is the government using technology to mitigate climate and environmental issues being faced by Pakistan, to identify and mitigate?
Not very much, to be very honest. So our Met department, right? They have been collating information very conventionally from different sources, which are the sources available globally to get the information, and that information we require at different segments, to make sure that people are aware that how the climatic conditions are changing over the period of time. But I don't think that we are leveraging that information to do informed decision making at different levels. Power generation, for that matter, agriculture side, another one where this kind of information should be used to where we can significantly see the climate of the country changing over the period of time, specifically in different segments, in different geographies. Waste, right? How we dispose of waste, it has got a significant impact. I don't think that we have done justice, or we have done enough in that area. I would really like to understand, from different startups, how they have created these solutions to dispose of waste, to put filters in and around power generation to mitigate, the proliferation of toxic gases, warming of the environment. This is an area where we haven't done enough. I think there is so much bigger room to work in Pakistan in these areas.
Even the Clean Air Act program, over there's a lot of room for mitigation using technology.
Yeah.
And building on, sorry.
Yeah, please go on.
Sorry, I was going to move on to my next question. Please, बताएं.
No, you go on. I said, go on, please. Ask your question.
Yeah. So, building on Saleem Saab's question, like, is there any platform available for ecopreneurs to put up their proposals to actually solve these environmental issues being faced by Pakistan?
Yeah. So Ignite's platform is pretty much open. It is technology agnostic. You can actually put an unsolicited proposal on Ignite in context of technology, right? And I mentioned earlier also, we will give it a fair chance of evaluation. If it has some framework where you will find the framework also based upon which we evaluate these unsolicited proposals. And if we find it exciting, we find it to be a game changer in some segment, in some form, we will definitely ask you to come over.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Shabahat, thank you for your patience. We just have 2 more people with their questions. Sarah from Replast.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Sarah from Replast, which is a sustainable design studio where we showcase how the circular economy can provide a solution to plastic pollution through green design. My question is centered in digitization and sustainability. What are some initiatives or companies working at the intersection? And also, does the government plan to open source climate data that up till now is very difficult, if not impossible to obtain?
So climate data, okay. So I'll go back like about 7-8 years ago, where the climate data access, there's a free climate data access that all of us know, where it comes from. Almost all, the predictive analytics or weather predictive analytics companies, they've been using that open access, open data that has been provided by NOAA, that has been provided by, some other climate data collection or raw data collection companies, and then they, pass this data through supercomputers, through these complex algorithms, and give you the climatic data conditions of the world. So there have been a few more technologies in the, which have actually come up, where they have started accumulating this data in a very different way. At the moment, they are providing this data at a cost, but what my intelligence and resources are telling me, this data is going to be available for public use also in a very short time span, perhaps within this year. So the technology the technology which has just has gone live is called radio occultation technology, where the climatic data is coming with almost 10 times more density than the conventional ways that the NOAA satellites have been collecting their data. At the moment, this data has got a little bit of a cost built into it, but I think it's going to go public very soon at a very, very low cost. I think we can pull this data at the government level, and we can actually create templates where the private sector can use it also, to create solutions out of them, or to solve their problems, or to build insight into their applications that they have been building. I don't know if I've answered your question right, but the conventional ways of collecting climatic data, has been augmented by the newer technologies which are coming in, and it has, and since this issue of climate change has become so much importance, and it has taken so much of limelight, that all the countries around the world are thinking like how better that they can accumulate this data, and they could give it a form where they could make more accurate decisions based upon climate data. I think Pakistan, probably needs exactly the same kind of a mindset, that how we can use it, effectively. I think it's going to be available, this year. Well, I was one of the founding members of that company, which started up that company, which is collecting data from the satellites using the radio occultation technology.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sarah. We have the last question now, Shabahat, from Khalid. Khalid.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for this informative session, Shabahat. So I'm Khalid. I'm founder of Intelligent Drug Dispensary. We provide electronic prescription writing software to doctors, integrating their interface with that of the patients and pharmacists. We mine this data acquired through the process and apply AI and ML on it to offer sales and marketing solutions to our clients in the pharmaceutical and healthcare manufacturing industries. Now, my first question to you is that several projects that I've observed of NITB follow human-centered design, such as the Prime Minister Citizens Portal or Beti or Mera Bacha Alert, etc. Have you considered co-creating these with the end user through direct feedback or AI and ML? If yes, what is the impact? And if no, why did you decide against it?
No, there is no point in deciding against it. That is by default the next level of technology that you should be building based upon all this data that you've accumulated in the center. So consider, okay, I'll give you an answer in a different perspective. Every citizen that does any kind of a transaction with the government, right? Any transaction with the government, that transaction is centric to his or her CNIC. If you go and you buy, if you go and you get a passport or an ID card, or for that matter, if you buy a land or a car, you make that transaction based upon CNIC. If you get vaccinated of, COVID vaccination, you will get it based upon your CNIC. So the idea is to create a central data nervous system based upon your CNIC, and all the data that the transaction that you've done with the government are going to be connected through that CNIC. Now sky is the limit. How you can connect linkages between all of these transactions, create a citizen's profile, right? And see and check mark this profile and grade this profile on a scale of 0 to 10. And now you map it over to the people who probably do not, who are not captured in this particular context, and see how many other people who are matched these kind of profiles, and then market them, whatever you want to market them based upon the transaction that these known people have done, right? This is work under progress. We have accumulated massive amount of data in the last 5 to 10 years, but we have not done these kind of predictive analytics based upon the data that we have accumulated. It has to be done. Healthcare is one particular area where we have got lots and lots of data from polio, the polio data, dengue data that we have captured, hepatitis. I mean, you name a disease, we've got massive amount of data, at the central repository. All we need to do is to make sure that, we start creating profiles of people and then start gauging which particular area is more effective, it's going to be affected, which higher propensity next year based upon the data that we have accumulated. So this is work under progress. We will get it done. Yeah.
Right, that's really impressive, and it's really good to hear that. Now, I have another question which is pretty much related to the one that I asked. Has NITB partnered with any other private company, and I'm talking about some big ones here like military tractors or Pakistan oil fields or FSC perhaps, to derive valuable economic or social insights from their data, and perhaps act as a bridge connecting them to relevant government offices in more of a symbiotic manner?
Yes, we have. I would not like to name those companies here on the call, but absolutely we have. In the COVID space, I can tell you, in this COVID pandemic era, right, in the last 12 months or so, we have actually partnered with 2 companies where we are getting data, GIS data from them, right? And we are dovetailing the data that they are giving it to NCOC's data center, and the data that we are accumulating right from the source. Once we are testing people, right, and getting their profiles from there and dovetailing it with them, and what we are trying to do there, we're trying to build clusters that which particular area has got higher probability of becoming a hotspot, and then probability of that hotspot to become a balloon and then burst. These kind of things that we have already done, We have collaborated with the private sector companies, and we are very, very open of getting data from the private sector if you've really done some good work.
Well, right. Thank you, Shabahat, for all this. Sorry. Thank you, Shabahat, for all this. And we really hope that we'll incorporate ourselves in the ecosystem and perhaps generate some valuable healthcare data for you as well in future. Have a good one.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Khalid. Thank you for startups for all the questions. I mean, we prefer to stay on time, and we've already run over. Shabahat, I can't thank you enough for your candor. We are honestly grateful in our hearts for the progressive mindset that professionals like yourselves and others are bringing to the government to uplift all of us essentially and enable opportunities. So feel free to have share any final thoughts that you might have. If not, I know you've addressed a lot of points already. We appreciate your time here again.
Yeah, just a couple of closing remarks that I would like to make here. One of the things that I have actually gone to the lengths and breadths of the country in the last year or so. So I landed back in Pakistan last year in July. It's been almost like a year and a half that I've been here after almost 15, 16 years. One thing that I've seen that our young generation, the kids are passionate absolutely about the newer technologies. They've immense talent. Whatever they have been doing, I think their learning curve is very, very fast, right? Having said that, I would like to give this message to our people who are actually in the technology space at this moment in time in Pakistan. Whatever you are doing, try to think in a perspective that whatever outcome that you're going to generate based upon a project, based upon a technology that you're building, based upon a startup, how you can change the lives of people, right? Is this going to have an impact on the lives of the general people or not, right? So build something with a purpose. Go back to your lab, go back to your environment where you've been building something, and ask your question, would this have a significant impact on the lives of people or not? Is it going to change the life of someone, for good? If you can answer this question to yourself, I can tell you, you are on the right track. If you cannot answer this question succinctly to yourself, I think you should go and revisit your idea, revisit your startup, revisit your technology, and you will find some kind of some from your own self that you need to an adjustment to your idea, to your startup to move forward. That's something that I think that I have learned over the period of time that I just wanted to share with you guys.
Well, on that high note, thank you again, and inshallah, we hope to have you back, speaking with us again. And just a final word for audiences on Facebook. A number of people are interested in pitching ideas. Look, as Shabahat has indicated, if your idea is ready in a tangible form, reach out directly to Ignite. If you need to work upon it and incubate and think through and crystallize your idea into a venture, I mean, apply to your closest NIC. There are 5 of them, and find the one that's closest to you. So with that, thank you again, Shabahat, and we look forward to having you back with us again. Take care, everyone. Allah Hafiz.